Greetings, fellow villagers. Rodamon here. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of a brand new series playing the Wandering Village. This is a tutorial series on the hardest difficulty in the game. The Wandering Village is a city building simulation game where you build on the back of a giant wandering creature. If you'd like more information about the game, it can be found in the description of the video, and if you would like to skip the overview, please use YouTube chapters. Episode 1. Start of the tutorial. It hypothetically incorporates Twitch integration, but we'll see if it works because I wasn't really able to test that. So here we go. Let's get started. So when you're picking a new game, there's obviously 3 different difficulties: novice, adept, and veteran. And I'm going to be veteran. What the difference is essentially sort of the events and the biomes that are thrown at you. So veteran is the hardest to survive. There's also a customized difficulty, so that you can customize that villagers don't die, or Onbu, the creature, doesn't die, or that it's Iron Man. I'm not going to be safe scumming, but we'll call this Yoda, because of my sidekick here.
Driven from our homes by the toxic spores, we kept wandering, looking for shelter. But not in our wildest dreams did we imagine what we would find.
So before I start, I'm going to go over a little bit of the UI and be the tutorial myself. So this here is Onbu. He is a wandering giant, and we are building a village on the back of Onbu, kind of like a world turtle, right? On the top left, you have your resources. So we start off with berries, wood, stone, and water. And this is the resources that are available to me at this moment. There are ways to get regenerable stone and wood, but some resources can't be so easily refilled. On the bottom left is an event log. So right now Onbu is sleeping. The player does not directly control Onbu. It is a symbiotic or parasitic relationship, depending on how you want to play, where Onbu, you can request that he does certain things, but he is not obligated to fulfill them. And you can build up a relationship with him where you benefit Onbu and Onbu benefits you. So a part of this game is surviving, building a colony, a little village. And a part of it is actually keeping Onbu alive, because if you're not careful, Onbu could die and your village dies with him. On the top right is the research tree. I don't have a research building yet, so I'll show that soon. This is food. How much food that you have, and then roughly what you've consumed in the last 24 hours and produced. This is your population and what demands they are making of you. There's 4 tiers of demands. So small populations don't have high expectations for food variety, food quality, or housing quality. But as you add more nomads to your village, their demands become increasingly higher. Productivity and unemployment or employment. Unemployed people act as general workers, and I'll explain this a little bit further. Time controls, then of course the notebook. This gives you sort of the glossary of all things that are in the game. Temperature controls, that is very important. A lot of what you will do is farm for food, and depending on the temperature and moisture in the air, it will change what you grow and how you harvest. And then the next is moisture or humidity. And then lastly, toxicity. So there is air toxicity, which is the toxicity in the air when Onbu is walking. And then there's ground toxicity when Onbu is sitting or resting. And toxicity, higher toxicity will poison your villagers, and if they're not treated with medicine, they die. So this is the village view. Then you have the Onbu view. And then out here is the world map view. So we're starting off in the cold biome in the mountains, and we are heading towards what looks to be jungle. First things first, I am going to have my starting villagers. Oh yeah, some of them are named after you. Yeah, Arkrune and Takarash. Okay, yeah, integration is working. Rock on. I'm going to start by building some tents. before I even start laying out buildings, I want to kind of explain the thought design of laying out your city. And I know I'm going a little slow, but most of what you farm can only be farmed on the green stuff, which is a fertile soil. Some things like mushrooms can be farmed on the dirt, but mushrooms is to be fed to Anbu, not your villagers. There's also specific buildings that you will unlock later on that can only be built in certain spots. So for instance, you can collect dung from Anbu, but your dung collectors have to be built near his tail. Or you can build catapults to catapult food to feed Anbu, but they have to be built in the front. Then there is also ways to collect things like bile and blood from him, and they have to be built somewhere in the middle. So when you're laying out your village, you have to keep in mind that there are zoning requirements for certain buildings, and those buildings have to be built in very specific spots. So for instance, collecting bile from Anbu is only like a circle about this large, and if you are trying to farm there or have houses there, well, you're blowing up your houses or moving your farm. All right. Then also, the resources on his back, I'll explain that. We have got berries, and you collect these berries to be able to feed yourself. Initially, early game, it's a very reliable way to feed yourself, more so than farming, because berries are not killed off by the temperature. So whereas, like, let's say you're trying to plant corn, and then all of a sudden you have some sort of crop failure, your corn could die off, but the berries will be fine. Then you have trees for wood. You have these little stones for stone. Then you have Anbu spikes. Anbu spikes are actually part of Anbu's body, and if you harvest these, it does give you a whole lot of stone, but it makes Anbu upset, and Anbu is less likely to trust you as a result. We have the giant trunks, which you need a sawmill for, and then the boulders, which you need a quarry for. You also can get resources from scavenging. So these little spaces out here, well, not that one, but these spots here have special resources that you can scavenge from. And there are zone-specific resources. So, for instance, in the mountains, you're more likely to get iron ore, and in the hot deserts, you're more likely to get sand. And those two resources are needed for iron and glass, which is advanced building materials that are unlocked later. So with all of that gabbed at you, let's go ahead and lay out the initial tents. These tents house 2 villagers, and I have 16, so I need at least 8 tents. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my tents right on the edge of this dirt patch. And then the next thing I'm going to do is start to set up tree cutting zones. So here's the harvest tool. This is the building menu here. So we have the village storage, water tank to store water, pantry to store food, and material storage for things like stone and wood. We have food, so air wells collect water from the air. Berry gatherers gather berries, and then farms farm. Initially, you're definitely going to berry gatherer over a farm. And then there's raw resources, which I don't have yet, but that would be like sawmill. Carpentry and stone cutter, they turn wood into planks and stone into slabs. The mycologist, which plants mushrooms for Anbu food, probably not something you need very early on. There's Anbu interaction, poison, so an herbalist to be able to heal people, and exploration, which I don't have anything in there yet either. The other thing I'm going to do is going to lay down a dirt path here so that we can move around faster. In order to have an efficient colony, it's really helpful to have some good pathing. All right, the harvest tool here, the way this works is you can remove things from being harvested, and then you can also say, let's say I only wanted to cut full-grown trees. I would select harvest only fully grown objects and harvest trees. And then I can drag and only selects the fully harvestable trees. That way I don't have to individually select them. There is a special tree called a mother tree, which you might not want to cut down initially. It really depends on how you want to grow. But I do have a mother tree here. A young mother tree. A mother tree is a tree that helps to grow other trees around it. So if you cut those down, you get fewer forests. There actually might be a reason why you want fewer forests, but we'll get to that later. All right. Then with all these houses built, I am going to put a research building here on the other side of the road. and unpause and let them start building. One of the first things that you're going to want to do is to get access to research. So let me show you that for the first time. There is 3 types of research. There is village research for kitchens or cactuses. Cactuses is something that you can farm that produces water, not food. And then kitchens allow you to cook food. Most of the recipes in the kitchen take 3 raw ingredients and turn it into 5 meals, so it's a really good way for you to stretch food further. Then there's the research tree, a resource tree, excuse me. Dung collecting for fertilizer and biogas. And as you can see, it goes down to glass and iron and the like. And then the Onbu tree. The hornblower is the first Onbu object. This allows you to blow a horn to issue commands to Onbu, like sit or go north. Initially, I'm probably going to want a kitchen in order to stretch our food, because food scarcity is one of the first big barriers to meet. So speaking of which, let's go gather some berries. So the way the berry gatherer works is, depending on how many nodes of berries there are in the zone, it increases its efficiency. So you're going to want to find somewhere that has a bunch of berries grouped up. With that said, berry bushes do expand over time. You can't plant them, but they do sort of grow on their own. So it's entirely possible to have a low efficient patch become a high efficient patch later on. But here's one that's at 89% or 94%. One thing to note, though, is if it's not close to your initial colony, the commute time could be penalizing. So that's something to also consider. You don't necessarily want to spread out too much. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a berry patch here and run a dirt path out to it like that. And my dirt path intersects one of the berry bushes. So let's go ahead and don't build the path there, so it doesn't destroy that bush. Oh, or that bush. Ooh, I didn't see you. Let me fix that. There we go. Now I'm not cutting any bushes down. Okay. Now, initially, I don't have a hornblower, so I can't really tell Onbu to do anything specifically. So he is just going to, or she, I don't even know the gender, is just going to act autonomously with no input at all. Oh, wow, my road is terribly laid out. Let me fix that before we actually build it. So something else that you can build pretty early on is a worker hut. What these worker huts do is it allows you to designate a certain amount of your people to work specific jobs, like harvesting or carrying or building, if you want to specify. And there's a little bit of a production bonus when you do that. I'm not going to build a worker's hut just yet, but I will eventually. All right, let me get rid of the misplaced roads as well. I don't need to cut down those trees as a result. Sleeps a bit like Yoda? Yeah, no kidding. Although Yoda has his back turned. Hey, buddy. Thank you all for all the generosity in the activity feed, by the by. I really appreciate it. Another thing that I should point out is priority. So, I showed you the harvest tool, and this allows you to harvest crops, trees, stone, anything. It can specify whether it's only full grown or not, and can also cancel. The next one is priority tool, and the priority tool is pretty useful and pretty important. So if I wanted to say make the research and the remaining houses first, I can just drag priorities to be able to prioritize it. And then I can say, oh, and a low priority of making sure you cut these trees. And it tells your workers that do that kind of work to do those projects first. So I'm saying build the research building and these tents so that everyone is housed. Because right now they're working on the path, and well, that's really not that important. Another thing is I want to start to gather the berries pretty early on as well. Next to the berry gatherer, I'm going to put a pantry so that the berry gatherer can drop berries off to the pantry. The pantry stores raw food and cooked food, So once we get a kitchen built, I'm also going to want a pantry next to the kitchen as well. So a little bit more of the UI. Over here we have Anbu's health in the top right. And when his health depletes, you'll see the circle go down, kind of like Breath of the Wild. And then it will eventually go orange and red. And you are warned, and Anbu will make noise when he is injured. We also have poison level. Anbu can become poisoned just like your villagers can. And every now and then you're going to have to feed him antidote. We also have his hunger level. Now Anbu can forage for himself if he finds food. So for instance, these mushrooms that are in my path, Anbu is going to take this path. These mushrooms in the path will feed Anbu. Every now and then there aren't a lot of feeding spots, and you'll have to feed Anbu yourself. And then the last one is Anbu's sleepiness. So when he's sleepy, he will sleep. When he's awake, he usually will walk. And then up here is his current heart rate, and also the time. So it's day 1 in the morning. Can you upgrade the berry gather or other buildings to increase the range? No. They're sort of a one and done. Now there are some stretch goals for the developer, which might add additional features. And there is a sort of a log of what they plan on doing. I think that the next stretch goal for them is bird taming, I believe. But I don't have that list memorized myself. Alright, I'm going to speed time up just a little bit. And first research project, I'm going to say a kitchen. After I get at least the initial research projects that I think are really vital and important for me to do, I'm going to have you all vote on research projects thereafter. So what's happening here is 2 people are moving to the research building, and they will start to do the kitchen research. The kitchen research doesn't require any knowledge, but some research projects do. So if we take a look here, tomato plantations require 1 knowledge, windmills require 1, scout tower requires 4, and knowledge can be obtained by scouting the outside world, generally speaking at these shrines. But I don't have a scavenger for that just yet. However, I'm going to queue that up. So after kitchen, I am going to research scavenger hunt, which allows us to send scavengers out to the world to scavenge sites for resources. Hey, Scorpiosa, here you are. Another thing that I want to do is to start to set up what I'm going to need for said kitchen. So the kitchen requires planks and slabs, which is made from the carpenter and the stonecutter. So this carpenter and stonecutter, I am going to place just behind the initial houses, maybe here, with a road going up, and then also a material storage right there next to it. So that's the next project. So right now, prepare to build a kitchen is the priority. Do buildings fully block travel? No, they don't. But you do want to use the roads as much as you can. I can always move tents, so if I wanted to open up a dirt road path here, I could just blow this tent up and move it. So here's the material storage, and you can specify what kind of materials that you want to put in there. I'm going to cover all the advanced materials once we get there, but we're not there yet. Another thing I'm going to need to do is to harvest rocks. And these rocks will replenish slowly over time, but they do replenish automatically, and there's nothing that you have to do to replenish them. The rocks can only be found in the dirt areas. And then I don't want to over-select too many rocks because I don't want to burden my workers collecting rocks forever. So here's my stonecutter. I do have a stonecutter built, and they take 3 rocks and make 2 stone slabs, which is an advanced building material that we'll be using. And then, likewise, the carpenter takes wood and makes planks. Oh, we've got a large mother tree. Nice. Pretty soon here, Anbu is going to start moving. We can see his sleepiness is reducing because he's been slumbering a while. And once he starts moving, we're going to be trucking down this path with no control over speed or direction or anything like that, because we don't have the technology to ask him or make requests or anything like that. So that'll be fun. Anbu steering us to terrible biomes or something. It can happen. Can you move a mother tree? No, you cannot. There is a way to plant trees later on in the tech tree, but early game, trees just pop up where they pop up, and you can either ignore them or cut them down. Alright, there we go. We have the carpentry. The carpentry station can employ up to 3 people, as can the stonecutter. For now, I'm only going to employ 1 person in them. Some workplaces require the workplace to be fully staffed in order to operate correctly. And then some do not. What's going on with this berry gatherer? I set it to the highest priority, and nobody's done it so far, and we've eaten about half of our berries already. Get moving, guys. And here, speaking of getting moving, Anbu is moving. So down on the bottom left, or right rather, we have the total kilometers traveled. Anbu has traveled about 3 kilometers so far. And then you can see the sort of events that we're going to interact with. So up ahead are some nomads that are looking for a new home. I am going to poll ahead of time. Do we accept these nomads? Yes or no? Because I can see them in the path. So when you accept nomads, either they are going to be healthy or poisoned. And if they're poisoned, you're going to have to be responsible for curing them. So if they are indeed poisoned, we're going to need to remedy that. With that in mind, I am going to get a herbalist going right there in order to plant herbs for healing. Right now, we're in a special spot called an Anbu sleeping spot. These Anbu sleeping spots have clear air, free of toxins, and are a really good place for Anbu to rest. Now, I don't have a hornblower, so I can't tell Anbu to rest. And even if I did have a hornblower, he's only 7% sleepy, so he's not likely to even listen to me. If the commands that you issue to him don't make sense, he often, even if he likes you, will just ignore them. So if you're like, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, he's not listening. He's like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to do my own thing. Just to let you know how that works. And we are almost done with the kitchen. Okay, kitchen unlocked. So with this kitchen, it costs 10 wood planks and 10 stone slab. And what you get from it is the ability to process berries or any other food resources that you have. And I'm going to lay the kitchen down here. And this kitchen is going to be second highest priority. I still want the berry gatherer first. I don't know why they're taking so long to build it. And then I'm also going to get a second berry gatherer. I'm just not sure where to put it. It'd be nice to have an 89% efficient berry gatherer, but it's just so far away that I think the travel time, or 94%, the travel time to get there is not going to be worth the, be worth it. Oh, you know what's happening? I know why we're not making this. This tree is in the way, and it was not signaled to be cut down. So they can't build it until the tree is removed, so now I've just told them to remove the tree. We should have the berry gatherer in no time. We're about to reach an Anbu eating spot, and the Anbu eating spots, he'll just feed automatically. He doesn't ask us whether he should or not. And we are about to enter a new biome. So we have just entered, as you can see in the bottom left, the jungle biome. So the jungle biome is warmer than the mountain biome that we're just in. It's a lot more humid, so if I had air wells, it would be collecting a lot more water. And this jungle biome does not have toxicity, but most jungle biomes would. It's just really early game. The game goes a little easy on you just so that you can get set up. There we go. So this berry gatherer looks like it needs a bit more stone. So what I'm going to do is prioritize these stones to be cut and these trees to be cut so that we can get that gatherer sooner than later. The kitchen is kind of a lower priority. I don't really care about it. We need food. So here, you can see all the mushrooms that Anbu is going to ignore. I guess he's not hungry enough to even stop for them. All right, dude. Walk on by. That's fine. As I said, I can't control him yet. He is his own mind. So here's the pantry that will store berries. And we just need 3 more stone for the berry gatherer. And then I'm going to throw 3 of my villagers into the berry gatherer so that I start gathering berries quickly, because I am just about out of food. Now, if you're totally out and you don't have a berry gatherer, what you can do is just go to the berries themselves, like this, and harvest them manually. And that way you can stay fed, even if you don't have a formal gatherer. So, because it took me a while to get the gatherer up, I can just signal these bushes to be manually harvested. But here's the gatherer. The benefit of the gatherer is it won't destroy the bushes, whereas harvesting it this way is destructive. So, there's the 2 different methods to feed yourself initially. And you can see my little berry gatherers, Takarash, Garwood, and yep. Okay, herbalist is done. So here's the way farming works. Farms, I don't know why sometimes, I think the green of my monitor is turning my skin green and it's making me look weird. Maybe I can like be red or something. So here's the way farm works. You can tell them to either plant or harvest. This can be very useful if, let's say you are a forester and you don't need wood at the moment. You can tell them just to plant trees, and then when you need the wood, you can tell them to harvest. You have to manually put in the plots that you want them to use. So you can paint plots anywhere within the radius of the building. Just know that not even a fully staffed farm is going to use all the potentially available plots. So, although you're able to paint plots like crazy, you will not use them, so don't bother to overplan. Of course, you have staffing up here, 1 to 3 people. I'm only going to have 1 initially. And then you have temperature and requirements of water. So the herbalist requires water to be able to plant herbs, and we are at a perfect temperature to plant herbs, so I'm going to, have him start to plant it. But another thing that we're going to need to manage is to get him water. So I'm going to build an air well, which collects water. It's a passive water collector. And I can build that there. And here is the groups of nomads. And you guys voted for me to pick them up. So 2 people who are healthy have joined the village. Nice. Let me look ahead. I don't see any other events coming up just yet. But we are able to feed ourselves, which is really good. So here the herbalist goes. Kareen. All right, something else I'm going to make next to the air well is a water tank. A water tank will store the water from the air well, and they should be close to one another for easier access. And I'm going to build a dirt road down from the herbalist. Alright, I will need to continually designate resources to be harvested, or we're going to run out of stone and wood. As you can see, I only have 3 stone in the top left and 25 wood. So it is a struggle to keep an initial colony resourced up. But here's the well, and because we're in a pretty humid environment, it produces water, and it has a max capacity of about 45, I believe, off the top of my head. How does the Twitch integration work? It's just naming villagers after viewers. It works automatically. I don't have to do anything. So, Pesky Phoenix, or what's your name? Scorpiosa. Laurent. That's not one of the viewers. Glitch. Oh, I even have a glitch here. Hey, buddy. I don't control it at all. It's just, if I go out to settings here for Twitch integration, I just connect my account to Twitch. Oh, we have a crossroads. I can't pick the direction that we travel because I don't have a hornblower. So Onbu is going to make the decision himself unless I get a hornblower in time, which is possible because I'm almost done with the scavenger hut. Okay, let's go for the hornblower. So this scavenger hut is an object that can only be built on the edges of Onbu, and not at the back, and not at the front. I was planning on putting it here. And what it does is it sends out workers, 2 workers, to go to these places. So a forest usually gets you wood or planks, a quarry, stone, a dune, sand, poison forests, vary a little bit, but mushrooms generally. Shrines are for technology. Settlements is a bit random. Ruined settlements is usually bread, so on and so forth. They're vitally important, and you cannot win. Well, you cannot win without scavengers, because some resources you're not going to happen upon on the back of Onbu, like iron or glass. So you do have to scavenge for those. Another thing that we could do is to get another research building to double the amount of researchers that we have. That might be useful. Oh, that's a mother tree. Feeding my own Onbu here. Alright, there's the water tank. Awesome. Now the game's still telling me that I am nearly out of stone. So I think what I'm going to do is, now that the kitchen is constructed, I am going to employ one more person in both the carpentry and stonecutter so that I can get the scavenger hut up as soon as I can. But here's the kitchen. And the kitchen has different recipes. So initially we're going to be making berry muesli. Takes 3 berries and makes 5 meals. But there's also beet soup as well. I am currently not farming beets, so I don't have any beets to make into beet soup. But food variety is something that your population will eventually demand. So right now, all that they're really demanding is that they're housed and fed. They don't have any other demands, but as we tech up and add additional villagers to our population, they will make demands of me. Man, the green of this game is really making me disappear like Casper the Friendly Ghost. Whatever. I'll embrace it. Slowly disappearing. Alright, something else we could do is to set up a pantry next to the kitchen so that we can also store berries in this pantry, not just over here where we're collecting. So the purpose of this pantry is to lower the amount of time it takes to remove the berry gatherer inventory. Because if my berry gatherers collect 20 berries, the berry gatherer stops operating because they will be full. Much the way that this air well just filled up with 45 water and is no longer working. It is at storage max. So right now we need, well, we need a little everything. So let me start prioritizing the trees that are in the way of the farm, and then the stone over here to be harvested. And Anbu decided to go north into additional jungle rather than south. I didn't get the hornblower in time, even though I did start to employ a second or 4 researchers instead of 2. I think because of our resource limitations, I'm going to remove a stonecutter and a carpenter, because it's not that we're not processing the material fast enough, it's that we simply don't have the material to even process. So it would be better if those guys were harvesting. You only get villagers through picking them up on nomads or going to special events with your scavenger to do it that way. If you do have a question, there's a channel point redemption that allows you to log your question so I can see it a little easier too. So far, I think I've been able to answer most people's questions, but if there is if your question goes unanswered, there's a channel point for that. Okay, we are barely producing more food than we're eating, but technically we are. 7 of my people are employed, or 11 are employed, and 7 are acting as general workers. It would be good to get a farm up soon, though. Thank you for tuning in to The Wandering Village, which originally streamed live on Twitch September 10th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below, but please keep in mind that the series has since ended. If you'd like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhodamont.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my gaming community, Rhodamont.com has a link to Discord, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Twitch subscribers that showed up to support me during this live stream, viewers like you on YouTube, and my Patreon patrons on patreon.com/Rhodamont. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell,